a special advisor of the Foundation for Strategic Research of France, and Yordan BOZHILOV, our good friend, the president for the Sofia Security Forum in Bulgaria. We will start, of course, with some introductory remarks, and then we will have a debate and some Q&A session. We are 20 minutes late because of the first panel, but we will try to be shorter. Charles Powell, you have the floor. Good morning and welcome to Black Sea Balkan Security Forum.
Good morning, everyone. Let me just first, we're being asked, I suppose, to discuss what the limits of strategic autonomy are and whether the development of strategic autonomy is compatible with NATO. Now, before I jump into that, something I have to confess has surprised me a little about the tone of discussions yesterday and even this morning, is that there seems to...
Mainly in 2013, there were and there are many different opinions about it. Even the term strategic autonomy is not, let's say, accepted by all member states, including my country. Romania, for a very long period of time, preferred to discuss about the resilience of the European Union, not about the strategic autonomy of the EU. However, the mindset that it is absolutely obvious to have this resilience on many areas. On defense and security, this was the most controversial, because there were different opinions at the level of the Union, and still are different opinions of this strategic autonomy. There are countries like, let's say, France, for example. Of course, President Macron was one of the champions of strategic autonomy. Speaking now is that there is a speed, there is an absolutely fabulous speed in adopting different decisions aiming at consolidating the strategic autonomy of the EU on defense and security. The SAFE instrument, the defense loan instrument of 150 billion euro, it's an absolutely remarkable example how fast the Union was able to adopt decision whenever is necessary. This instrument, the ambassador in Coreper approved this instrument last Wednesday in a period of two months. So I will conclude here. I don't want to say too much about the Trump administration, but I just wanted to say that I was asked by New Strategy Center to make an assessment last year about the implications of, for the relation EU.
One of the most important views is the French view. So, François, HEISBOURG, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's great to be back here. A couple of years ago, I was asked to speak about strategic autonomy here. I said, well, it may be a good concept, but the marketing is pretty awful. So a sort of decision was made that the marketing had to be improved. So we hired two people to do that. One is called Mr. Putin, and the other is called Mr. Trump. And their combined efforts have led to a situation in which the French no longer need to talk about strategic autonomy, because that is something which everybody else is now doing. The same fate has also happened to the Transatlantic Partnership, which you don't hear very much about in Washington, D.C. Nowadays. So we have a session which has a title which in a way has become semantically overtaken by events. And I say this jokingly, obviously. Well, first thing, what do we know? We know what the Russian ambitions are. The security treaties of December 2021 have never been taken off the Russian table. So that's clear enough. It's bring Europe back to where it was at the end of the Cold War. The second thing we know is that the Americans are, to a more or less great extent, on their way out. I was at a session in Tallinn a few days ago where we had, not under Chatham House rules, the presence of the new American Perm Rep to NATO. Wake-up call. We've had so many wake-up calls, very, very good at that. We pretend to wake up and then we turn over and roll back under in our beds. I think it's much more likely that we will be woken up not by the hateful alarm clock. We're going to be waken up by the sweet smell of coffee. Waken up by the sweet smell of coffee coming from the kitchen. Coffee coming from the kitchen. What is a sweet smell of coffee? It's called money. What is a sweet smell of coffee? It's called money. We are, the Europeans, going to be able to conduct policies of defense expansionism because financial circumstances and not only strategic circumstances have changed. Germany has done away with the Schuldbremse, very big thing, opening up German savings. Secondly, the bond markets and the rating agencies are telling us that the United States is no longer viewed as the safe haven that it used to be in terms of money. And the bond markets speak very, very loud. European money tends now to stay in Europe and not go to the US. That is also a very big welcome change. And you mentioned quite rightly, amongst a number of other initiatives, the escape clause, which should make it relatively convenient for fiscally challenged countries, including my own, including Romania, to do the right thing when it comes to defense spending. So that's the first thing. The peace dividend has ravaged the American defense industrial base. Rheinmetall in Germany produces more shells for artillery than the United States does. And just that this should not make us feel too proud, North Korea still produces more than Rheinmetall or the United States. So we are not in a situation where the Americans can expect us to spend our money on their market. Second point, the nuclear stuff. I'm not going to get, unless you call on me to do so, speak about French initiatives in the nuclear arena. But the fact is that ever since President, not then President, candidate Trump, in February 2024, said loud and clear that he would welcome the Russians to do the hell what they would want, his words, not mine, the Germans in particular began having a big nuclear debate. Is NATO and NATO nuclear sharing still in a position to be counted on in terms of ensuring deterrence over the next years and decades? That is a discussion which is now beginning between the French and a number of friendly countries. We'll see how that goes. Third issue, NATO assets. NATO is a collective enterprise. The Americans will have more money, which is going to be made available. That makes me relatively confident that we are going to be able not to achieve strategic autonomy as a goal, but to achieve strategic autonomy as a necessity. Thank you.
Thank you, François. I took a note about the wake-up snooze when you are talking about strategic autonomy. And we will end the presentations with a view from the eastern flank. Yordan, BOZHILOV, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And I will fully agree with François that it's a very difficult time for Europe because we have aggressive Russia, Russia which wages war against Ukraine, but also hybrid war against European countries. We have new dynamics in the transatlantic relations, and we have some developments within Europe which might threaten unity of our alliance. So, to me, the most important question of nowadays, it is European defense, including territorial defense. To date, European defense was entrusted to NATO under firm commitment from the United States. And as it was, has been said before, we can expect it is not feasible. And of course, we don't know what will be the future U.S. commitment to the alliance. Second option for European defense would be building strong European component within NATO. Under this model, the European countries will develop a robust defense pillar within NATO, using NATO existing structures and assets. European states would take greater share of burden, but again, what will be the US commitment in terms of conventional and nuclear umbrella?
Thank you so much. We have only 5 minutes for Q&A and a short debate. If we have some questions, if not, I will want to provoke the panelists with one only thing that we can probably debate in 5 minutes. I would like to ask all the panelists if this strategic autonomy is not weakening the transatlantic relation and is not a gift for the new axis of evil, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and China, that is empowering a war in Europe. Charles Paul.
Absolutely not. This is the kind of narrative that certain people in the Trump administration and elsewhere would like us to buy into. And it has all sorts of ramifications, like this 5% headline goal. You know, where the hell did that come from? They just pull these figures out of a hat. You know, an administration that doesn't understand VAT, that doesn't understand the basics of economics, has this ability to say,
I would like to quote from the conclusions of the European Council, the meetings of the European Council on 6th and 20th of March this year. Europe must become more sovereign, more responsible for its own defense, and better equipped to act and deal autonomously with immediate and future challenges and threats with a 360 degrees approach. But at the same time, the European leaders, by unanimity, because the conclusions are adopted by the unanimity of the European leaders, stress that a stronger and more
words like safe haven. The United States is no longer a safe haven. Third figure, the United States has a net public debt, sovereign debt, of 120% of GDP, somewhere between France and Italy. Here again, not a problem, as long as we all, meaning the Chinese, the Europeans, and others, we all looked at the United States as the mother of all safe havens. That is over.
I would like to thank the panelists for a great debate. Thank you.
But he's from Ukraine, so. Let's just start. We're still missing one panelist, but let's see whether he turns up. Morning, everyone, and welcome to this timely panel. How is AI changing the security landscape? New challenges for strategic thinking. We're at a turning point. Artificial intelligence is no longer just a support tool. It's reshaping how we think and act strategically in military intelligence and policy. Of the spectrum, start with Mr. Oscar Rojas. Oscar, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. So I only have 7 minutes to answer 4 questions, and there is no possible way that I can answer them in that time allowed. So I'm only going to answer the question of how is the adaptation of artificial intelligence technology influencing the intelligence practices within Western militaries. I will answer this question based on my 32 years of military operations within the U.S. Navy Special Operations community. And out of those 32 years, I spent 20 years conducting counterterrorism operations and direct combat action globally, where I used unmanned systems, robots, and drones that have artificial intelligence and machine learning embedded in them in order to be able to do military operations much faster. So what we have now is a big data problem. Analysts in their workflow, it streamlines their process. This means that by reducing their workload, by automating routine tasks such as categorizing raw data or extracting essential metadata, it frees up analysts to focus on more complex evaluations. This can improve overall accuracy and accelerate intelligence assessments. In the end, data is just data unless it's analyzed. And once it's analyzed, it becomes intelligence. And hopefully at some point that intelligence becomes actionable intelligence. So all of this goes into what the U.S. military calls the OODA loop decision process. OODA loop is the observe, orient, decide, and act. By delivering relevant insights more rapidly, artificial intelligence helps leaders at various levels, whether it's at the tactical level of some operator operating computer is here today. Everything that we have secured today through encryption will quickly become vulnerable because quantum computing can process and decipher those encrypted encrypted data. Additionally, there's also ethical and legal considerations that need to be taken into consideration. Western governments and militaries are grappling with the question on how artificial intelligence-driven systems fit within an existing legal frameworks, especially when lethal targeting and autonomous operations may be involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oscar. Right on time. You were speaking about accurate pictures. And AI, and that's a problem. In preparing this panel, I made some pictures of myself in the Star Trek movie, but I decided not to show them, so they were not accurate at all. Not only the fact that I never was in that series, but all. Not only the fact that I never was in that series, but also I didn't look like myself. Still some work to do. And there are ethical questions, and we might get back to that. Second one in our row, Air Vice Marshal Mike Hart. Could I please ask you to take the floor?
Okay, thanks very much. And I'm currently representing Oracle. So I'm going to actually try and do all 4 questions in 7 minutes. And the first one was about whether AI would shape or replace our strategic thinking and how. So I'm in the shape camp here because I think some things are immutable, like geography, like the location of critical minerals, and so on. And also strategic cultures differ. So, UK strategic culture is very different to French strategic culture, let alone Indian or Chinese strategic culture. And the way I would look at it is it's a technology that influences strategy in the way that previous technologies have. So, the Anglo-German naval race before 1914 is driven by the competition between the two powers, but in turn, that drives British policy to get hold of coal and oil to fuel the Royal Navy. So that's the way I tend to see it. Having said that, I think that any kind of strategic thinking that doesn't accept the reality of in Gaelic to the 69,000 people, that is driven by AI. So there's something about the way that plays at the lower level rather than just into elections, which we all know about in Romania and Moldova. How can AI shape strategy? So in all sorts of ways, in the way that we understand climate change, patterns of violence, patterns of migration, and so on. But the other key point is how the demands of AI shape our strategic response. So that talks about things like supply chains, power supplies, and CNI. So the second question was how AI impacts military operations, and the simple answer is obviously extensively. And we can think about the Ukrainian example with the digitalized battlefield and complete transparency, a kill web based on an AI platform. Level, partly because I think it's a threat to the primacy of the human analyst. Partly I think it's because of concerns at the assurance of large language models and so on. And partly I think it's an instinctive bias towards exquisite, highly classified intelligence rather than the use of data mining and social media. The final question was on the US-China AI race and how does it look at the moment. It looks pretty close. So if we think about Stanford's Institute for Human-Centered AI, talking that Chinese firms are now lagging the US by about 3 months. China still heavily depends on NVIDIA chips, so $16 billion worth of orders in the last month or two. But Huawei is planning to launch SN 910C, which will replace.
Thank you. Since I'm from the Ministry of Internal Affairs, I'm going to give you a perspective from a defender of internal security and with regards to emergency response, public order, and civil protection. So when we think about AI in the Ministry of Internal Affairs, we see high connectivity. High connectivity means force multiplier of all the threats that the Ministry of Internal Affairs has to deal with. Don't forget that the public trust is always at stake since all the bodies of the ministry are facing every day the threats and the requirements of our population is no longer low, since they expect better risk threats or to detect and counter large-scale influential operation that, let's say, affects the mission of our bodies in the ministry. And when turning to the strand of cybersecurity, the threats are more and more sophisticated because the AI-driven cyber attacks are learning how to defend themselves and to avoid security measures, and that's why we do have to have the right tools and let the AI, the good AI, to fight the bad AI. One more point that I want to touch upon is that of accuracy. Of course, we now are using a lot of digital platforms that collect and analyze in a real time open source data, so we can make a better picture of our threats landscape looks like. And the main challenges that I consider is to have our own large language model that can that should be trained within the Ministry of Internal Affairs, so it can really become a co-assistant for all strands of work, even if we talk about strategic or operational level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marius. And you raised a couple of interesting questions. The legal, ethical aspects of AI. Is the management involved enough? And can we differ between good AI and bad AI? If I hear something like that, I think about good AI wearing a white hat and a bad AI wearing a black one. But as we all understand, it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. So maybe we could go into that a little bit more during the discussion. Next, Andrei, welcome back from Ukraine, and please share your thoughts with us.
Not sure if my okay, microphone's working. Hello, my name is Andrei Sirko. I am from Ukraine, and my mission is to give you some view of how AI is developing and might be used on Ukrainian frontline. The first remark is, when we started the war, everyone who was on the front line knew that he fights with whatever he has, where he is, and he should not expect any support, any coordination, any food or water or anything for weeks, months, and it's a horrible position to be in, truly. But we learned the lesson that simple autonomous systems survive. Complex, expensive, integrated, they have much less survival sort of capacity. The other thing is that today we are looking at millions of drones, not tens, not when we ask our Western European partners send us the medium-range missiles, they say, was one of the joking answers, do you want one or both that we have? And we are dealing with virtually, tens of thousands of drones every day on the front line. Now, you have a picture that I brought with me. I brought three presentations, one picture just as a hint and two presentations of companies where I'm trying to show how the AI is merging and what is it on the front line. So this is a drone that I personally helped to launch a production 5 days ago. It's a new generation. It's not going to change the war, but it will contribute. And with these things, the production of anything, including AI, starts. So the next one, please. So the one thing that Ukrainians have learned is that you are working in a GPS-denied environment.